Hey everyone! Welcome back to Old Charles, where we dive deep into coins, history, and their hidden treasures. Today, we're focusing on a classic, the United States Liberty One dime from 1965. If you're a coin collector or just curious about old coins, stick around because this little dime has an interesting story and value you might not expect. So, what's so special about the 1965 Liberty One dime? At first glance, it might look like just another dime, but there's more beneath the surface. Let's break it down. The 1965 Liberty One dime is part of the Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death in 1945. The dime features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse side, and the reverse side showcases a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. What makes the 1965 dime historically important is the shift in its metal composition. Until 1964, dimes were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a clad composition, a copper core with outer layers of nickel, due to the rising price of silver. Let's talk specifics. The 1965 Liberty One dime is made of copper-nickel clad, no silver at all. It weighs 2.27 grams and measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter. So if you were hoping to find silver in this dime, you'd be disappointed. This change caused some controversy at the time, as collectors and the public were used to silver coins. But it was a necessary move to preserve precious metal reserves. Now, the 1965 dime doesn't have any mint marks because the U.S. Mint temporarily stopped using mint marks from 1965 to 1967 to discourage coin hoarding during the silver shortage. So all dimes from 1965 were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco without mint marks, but you can tell the difference by slight design and finish details if you're a real coin nerd. So, here's the big question. How much is a 1965 Liberty One dime worth today? Because these dimes contain no silver, their melt value is basically their face value, 10 cents. Even in circulated condition, they are worth about 10 to 25 cents to collectors. But wait, if they're so common and made with less valuable metals, is there any way this dime could be worth more?
Yes.
Collectors love errors, and the 1965 dime has some notable ones. Some 1965 dimes have double die errors or repunched mint marks on test coins, which can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if verified by professional grading companies. There are also rare proof dimes from 1965, struck for collectors with special finishes. These proofs can be worth $3 to $20 or more, depending on their condition. If you want to check your 1965 dime, look for sharp details on Roosevelt's hair and face, and make sure it's not damaged or heavily worn. The better the condition, the more a collector might pay. Grades range from good, G4, fine, F12, very fine, VF20, extremely fine, EF40, to uncirculated, MS60 and above. An uncirculated 1965 dime, while still not rare, can command a small premium. To wrap up, the 1965 Liberty One dime is an interesting piece that marks a major transition in U.S. coinage. While it's not a silver coin and usually worth face value, keep an eye out for rare errors or proof versions. Those might surprise you with their value. Today, we're going to travel back in time to 1965 and explore the fascinating history behind the United States Liberty One dime. This small coin holds a big story about America, its economy, and a major change in coinage history. The Liberty One dime, more commonly called the Roosevelt dime, was first introduced in 1946. It was designed to honor Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States. Roosevelt passed away in 1945, and because of his connection to the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio, the U.S. Mint chose to memorialize him on the dime. Roosevelt's profile quickly became an iconic image, and the dime featured his likeness ever since. From 1946 up until 1964, the Roosevelt dime was made mostly of silver, 90% silver and 10% copper. This made the dime not just a piece of currency but a small silver coin with intrinsic value tied to the precious metal. But in the early 1960s, the price of silver started climbing rapidly. In the early 60s, silver prices rose sharply due to market demand and government policies. This led to a serious problem. The silver in coins was worth more than the face value of the coins themselves. People began hoarding silver coins, melting them down for profit, and causing a shortage of coins in circulation. To solve this, Congress passed the Coinage Act of 1965. This law ended the use of silver in dimes and quarters and introduced a new metal composition, a copper core clad with nickel on the outside. So, the 1965 Liberty One dime was the first Roosevelt dime made entirely without silver, a historic shift in American coinage. This change helped save millions of silver ounces and kept coins circulating smoothly in the economy. Another interesting fact, from 1965 to 1967, the U.S. Mint temporarily stopped using mint marks on coins. This was part of an effort to discourage hoarding during the silver shortage. So all 1965 dimes came without mint marks, regardless of whether they were made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The 1965 dime reflects a turbulent time in American history. Not just in economics, but also socially and politically. It was a time when the country was undergoing huge changes, civil rights movements, the space race, and shifting economic policies. Today, the 1965 Liberty One dime is a reminder of a pivotal moment in U.S. coin history. It represents the end of the silver era and the beginning of modern coinage as we know it. Next time you hold a dime, think about its story, the people, the economy, and the history it carries in its small, unassuming design. If you enjoyed this history dive, please like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts below. Thanks for watching / your channel name, and see you in the next video. Now that we know the history behind the 1965 Liberty One dime, let's talk about condition, because condition is everything in coin collecting, and it really affects a coin's value. When we talk about coin condition, we're usually referring to its grade, a standardized way of describing how much wear and tear the coin has. Grades range from very worn to virtually flawless. Here's how it breaks down for your 1965 dime. At the lowest end, a 1965 dime in good condition will be heavily worn. Roosevelt's face and hair will be mostly flat with very little detail, and the letters will be faint. It'll look dull and might have scratches or nicks from everyday use. Moving up, in fine to very fine condition, you'll see more details on Roosevelt's hair and facial features, but some wear will still be obvious. The rim will be more intact but softened. In extremely fine condition, the dime will have minor wear visible only on the highest points of Roosevelt's hair and face. The coin still looks sharp and has a nice shine. Coins in this grade have just a tiny bit of wear, often only noticeable on close inspection. Most of the original mint luster remains. Uncirculated or mint state coins have no signs of wear at all. An MS-60 might have some minor imperfections or bag marks from handling, but a perfect MS-70 coin is flawless and looks like it just left the mint. For the 1965 dime, most coins you find will be circulated and in the good to extremely fine range, worth around face value or slightly more. However, uncirculated 1965 dimes, especially those with full original luster, can sell for a small premium, usually between $1 and $5, depending on the coin's eye appeal. There are also proof versions of the 1965 dime. These were made for collectors with a special mirror-like finish. Proof dimes in pristine condition can be worth $3 to $20 or more. If you want to check your coin's condition, use a magnifying glass and look at these details: Roosevelt's hair strands, the sharpness of his cheek and jawline, and the rim of the coin. The clearer and more detailed these are, the higher the grade. So remember, condition is king. Even a 1965 Liberty One dime can be more valuable if it's well preserved. Always handle your coins carefully and consider getting them professionally graded if you think you have a high-quality example. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this guide on coin condition and grading, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what coins you want me to cover next.